It has expired, so we call on Government Order of the Day number 1.
Patents Bill, second reading.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Craig Foss.
I move that the Patents Bill be now read a second time. First, I would like to thank the Commerce Committee for its consideration of the bill. The committee's report includes many sensible recommendations that will assist in ensuring that New Zealand's patent system meets the objective of the bill to promote innovation and economic growth, while providing an appropriate balance between the interests of inventors and patent owners and the interests of society as a whole. A patent is an intellectual property right granted for new inventions. The grant of a patent provides the patent owner with a right to prevent others from commercially exploiting the invention for the term of the patent. This is intended to provide an incentive for innovation and its dissemination which might not otherwise occur. While patents can benefit society by providing an incentive for innovation, they can also impose costs on society, as they are effectively a form of monopoly right. It is therefore important that the patent system be structured so to ensure as far as possible that the patent system provides sufficient to offset the costs so that there is a net benefit to society. The bill will replace the Patents Act 1953, other than provisions relating to patent attorneys. It is an important step in modernising 60-year-old patent legislation. The Patents Bill is intended to deal with the deficiencies of the Patents Act 1953 by introducing stricter criteria for granting a patent than those required by the Patents Act 1953. This will reduce the likelihood of overly broad patents being granted and avoid the economic costs imposed by such patents. This is of particular importance in New Zealand, where most patents are granted to applicants from outside of New Zealand. It will also ensure New Zealand's patents legislation reflects local and international developments in technology and business practice by providing criteria for the grant of a patent that are more aligned with those of other countries. It continues to promote an innovation and competition and encourages technology transfer to New Zealand by ensuring an appropriate balance between the interests of the patent owners and society as a whole, so as to maximise the benefits to New Zealand of the patent system. During its consideration of the bill, the committee heard many submissions from groups opposed to the granting of patents for computer programs. The Patents Act 1953 does not mention computer programs. However, computer programs can be patented under the existing Act of 1953 if they produce a commercially useful effect, following a 1994 ruling of the Commissioner of Patents. Under this ruling, most computer programs can be patented in New Zealand. Various submitters considered that the grant of patents for computer software can inhibit innovation and competition. The committee was also made aware that some New Zealand companies have made significant investments in embedded software. This is the sort of software that is used, for example, to control devices such as home appliances, digital cameras and mobile phones. The committee accepted that while the patentability of computer programs themselves should be restricted, patent protection should still be available where an invention includes embedded software. After considering the approaches taken in other jurisdictions, the committee decided and recommended that the bill provide that computer programs should not be a patentable invention. It is clear in the commentary on the bill that the committee did not intend that an invention should be ineligible for patent protection merely because it makes use of or is implemented by a computer program. Rather, the intention was that grant of a patent should be prevented only where the novelty and inventive step lie in a computer program. In order to make the committee's intention clear and to avoid any doubt as to what is intended, I propose that the computer program provision be amended so as to provide that only computer programs as such are ineligible for patent protection. In addition, I also propose that the provision be moved from Clause 15 to a new Clause 10A, which will provide that computer programs as such are not an invention for the purposes of the legislation. I acknowledge that there has been discussion around the changes that I have introduced through the SOP. but I reiterate that there has been no change to the Select Committee's intention that computer programs should not be patentable. Let me be clear. A computer program as such is not patentable. Let me be clear. A computer program itself under the SOP and this bill is not patentable. Another reason for this amendment is to ensure the consistency with New Zealand's obligations under the WTO Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, or TRIPS. The amendments to this provision, which reflect the legislative provisions in the United Kingdom and the European Patent Convention, are contained in a SOP which will be considered during the committee stage. The proposed amendment also reduces the risk that the provisions could be challenged as inconsistent with our international obligations. The bill provides that patents can be refused for inventions whose commercial exploitation will be contrary to public order and morality. The committee has recommended that the bill be amended to include a list of examples of inventions where exploitation is considered contrary to public order or morality and hence is not patentable. This will provide guidance as to the type of inventions excluded from patent protection under that provision. The bill as introduced did not contain provisions for pre-grant opposition. Such provisions allow third parties to formally oppose the grant of a patent. Many submissions to the committee argued that pre-grant opposition be retained as it prevents patent owners from asserting invalid patent rights. This provision is contained in the current Act but was not retained in the bill as introduced, as it was considered that the stricter criteria for granting a patent contained in the bill would largely remove the need for pre-grant opposition. The committee recommended that the bill be amended to include the provision for pre-grant opposition. Another recommendation of the committee is that the grounds for pre-grant opposition, re-examination and post-grant revocation be aligned. Mr Speaker, the bill as reported back contains provisions that allow New Zealand to become an exporting member under the terms of the protocol amending the TRIPS agreement to implement the Doha Declaration on the TRIPS agreement and public health. New Zealand has lodged its instrument of acceptance of the protocol in October 2011. The effect of the provisions is that New Zealand will be able to issue compulsory licences for the export of patented pharmaceuticals to developing countries with little or no pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity of their own, where the pharmaceutical is necessary to deal with a public health problem such as an endemic. The bill, as introduced, also contained provisions updating the regulatory regime for patent attorneys in New Zealand. The provisions have been split out of the Patents Bill into a new Patents Attorneys Bill. This will allow the Patents Bill to continue and to proceed while work continues on developing a new Trans-Tasman regulatory regime for patent attorneys. This work is part of the SEM agenda announced by New Zealand and Australian Prime Ministers in August 2009. Mr Speaker, I intend to move during the committee stage the amendments contained in Supplementary Order Paper number 120 in my name. The SOP contains the amendments to the computer program provisions that I discussed earlier in this speech. The remaining amendments proposed in the SOP are technical amendments merely intended to clarify drafting and correct errors and update consequential amendments. Mr Speaker, let me be clear. Under this bill and the proposed amendments, a computer program as such is not patentable. Mr Speaker, under this bill and the proposed SOP, a computer program itself is not patentable. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I want to start with a story, and it's a story about opportunity and potential and Kiwi ingenuity, but it's at risk of being stopped in its tracks and being stuffed up by a poorly conceived, badly worded amendment to this patents bill, which will only stifle innovation and promote litigation. Mr Speaker, yesterday we heard that the Kiwi video game studios in New Zealand released 73 commercial video games in the last year, primarily selling them digitally on iPhones, on websites and Android smartphones. And that local industry has nearly doubled in the last 2 years. It employs 380 full-time equivalent game developers. It's a high-tech, high-growth industry. The chair of the association says we've learnt how to make money from business models like digital distribution, freemium, virtual goods and crowdfunding. Exporting and acting global from day one have been key to this industry's growth. 97% of Kiwi games were digital downloads, and they've got low distribution costs and high margins. 99% of sales revenue came from exports, with the USA and Europe being the largest markets. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to make 2 points here. The first is that I bet you very few of the members on that side of the House understood half of what I just said, and how successful that this industry is and how it got to where it is. And the second thing is that it's at risk because of this amendment that the Minister of Commerce, Craig Foss, is put in front of this House, and his lack of understanding of how the software industry works and its importance to the New Zealand economy. And not only the New Zealand economy, but the future of our children's jobs in this country. Mr. Speaker, the game development industry is a software industry. Software is an integral part of the technology sector, which was identified in the TIN 100 report as being worth more than $7 billion in revenue and $5 billion in export revenue. In 2011, this industry grew by 13% and its employees by 6%. It relies on its ability to innovate. Software, for the Minister's benefit, is lines of code, like music is lines of notes and books are lines of text. Software is a collection of mathematical algorithms and mathematical equations. In order to create new software, you have to build on existing software. It can't be patented because that would stop it in its tracks. And that's what this bill tries to do. And that's what that amendment that the Minister's putting in front of this House today will stuff up. There's an important principle that underlies this bill, and that is that innovation is good and litigation is bad. When the patent bill was sent back to the House from the Select Committee in 2010, it was a major accomplishment. Now, I know that patent law isn't everybody's cup of tea. It happens to get me a bit excited, but I know it doesn't get a lot of other people excited. But at the heart of this bill and the changes to this bill is a commitment to provide a real incentive to help grow the New Zealand economy through its software industry and through its weightless economy. It's a major opportunity and it should be a major priority for all of us, every single member in this House. An awful lot of work went into this bill at the Select Committee, which was chaired by the Honourable Leanne Dalzell, who did a very good job of working us through the very complex issues that were brought before us. And I'd like to acknowledge the extraordinary lengths gone to by the officials on this bill. They were sent back on several occasions by the committee to do more research, and they did a good job of it. It was exhaustive. We thought long and hard about how to propose a responsible, balanced piece of law that updated patent law from 1953. And my concern is, Mr. Speaker, is about the advice that's been given to the Minister subsequent to the Select Committee's reporting the bill back to the House, and where that advice has come from, because it's not sound. Mr. Speaker. And what this bill seeks to address is that New Zealand's existing patent law is too generous to those people seeking patents. Too many corporations get monopoly rights, and many are multinational corporations that can get patent rights to inventions inside New Zealand that would not be protected overseas, which discourages innovation and growth, which is the last thing that we want to do as a nation, to have more software companies companies being taken to court and tied up for years, and to stop those companies from inventing new software because of the threat of patent lawsuits. Many of New Zealand's most successful software companies are coming up against nuisance software patent claims now. And that's what this bill is trying to address. It's trying to stop. And unfortunately, the prospect that we're facing today because of this SOP is of more litigation. And as I've said, I'm very disturbed at the wording of this SOP, and I challenge the Minister to reveal to the House where the wording of that SOP came from and who is meant to benefit from it. We hope... And today yesterday I released another supplementary order paper, another amendment, which is is very well drafted, and it does attempt to fix this up. And we hope that the other parties in this House will take the time to understand and consider the implication of Mr Foss's amendment, because we think that with such a significant amendment there should have been wider consultation, and now that it's tabled, that the committee stage of the House will be the first time that this House will have had to grapple with the implications of it. So the amendment that has been tabled by Labor provides very simple language and a clear definition of what the committee actually intended. And the bill actually, as it stands, simply says, quote, a computer program is not a patentable invention, which is what the intent of the Select Committee does. Our supplementary order paper says, to clarify that, is that does not prevent an invention that makes use of an embedded computer program from being patentable. Now, I want to tell you what lies behind that and why that is important, because while the bill and what the Select Committee said was, and the Minister should listen very carefully, while the bill would provide adequate incentives for innovation, however, we're aware of New Zealand companies who have invested in a significant number of software-related inventions involving embedded software. And embedded software, for those who don't know, is computer software that plays an integral role in the electronics it has supplied, such as cars, pacemakers, washing machines and telephones. We sought advice on this approach taken in other jurisdictions in the United Kingdom, the United States and Europe, and we got advice back that the best thing that we could do was to have, for the sake of clarity and the lack of litigation, was to have a very simple approach. So we received advice that our recommendation would include computer programs on the inventions that may not be patented and that would not prevent the granting of patents for inventions involving embedded software. And we recommended that there be regulations and provided by IPON's guidelines around that. Now, this government claims its amendment is based on the European system. We discovered that their system isn't that crash hot either. They haven't worked it out. They've got different jurisdictions in different countries that all conflict with each other. So Labor has stood up for the innovator. We're unashamed about that because our nation's future relies on creative people who have ideas and use technology to build new products and services that can build our skills in our export industries and make New Zealand a desirable place for investors and provide careers for our kids. Mr Foss's amendment will stuff this up. The software and ICT industry know this. They got motivated. They developed a petition which provided a sensible and cleanly worded alternative, which is what my SOP is based on. More than 1,000 small software companies and sole operators signed it in just a few days, showing the strength of feeling. Mr Speaker, we need to innovate. This bill is a good bill. Let's not put our new industry at risk. Let's innovate and not litigate. Today we support the second reading of this bill, but we won't be able to support it at the committee stages or the third reading with the Minister's amendment as it stands. My amendment will fix that situation. It makes the intent of the bill clearer, and I hope it will gain the support of the House.
Jonathan Young.